Hello and welcome to Matthew Reads, I guess. Today I'm talking about All That's Left in the World by Eric J. Brown.
Gay rights!
So, I mean, this is one of those books that, I found out about just because of Twitter. I saw other people tweeting about it. I really liked the front cover. I will say one thing I've immediately noticed, this version that I've got, I think it might be, the UK or the international version. But, I've seen this other cover that's, yellow. This one's way prettier than that one. Either way, this book is still part of that era where I have a pile of books that have all come out in March and April that I've really wanted to read. I do think there are only 2 books after this one left in the era, so we are coming to an end of it. But yeah, to go back to the cover for a moment, I remember when I spoke about The Infinite Noise, one thing I did comment on was how busy honestly both of the covers were. I remember there being a bunch of quotes of praise just on the back, which just busied up the back cover. And one thing I appreciate about this is the back cover is literally just the blurb. There is not a single quote of praise on either cover. And I mean, say, that is something I really appreciate because, again, I don't really care.
Hey, Queen. Girl, you have done it again.
But yeah, this is, All That's Left in the World is... Yeah, this is one of those that, if I were to, purely judge it on this cover, first of all, it is Stunosha in this dressy Hana. But, it would be one of those that it would be a sleigh just on its own like that. But, as for the blurbo from my shows, it does say that Jamie and Andrew are strangers and 2 of the last people left alive. Jamie lives alone in a cabin in the woods after a catastrophic event wipes out most of the population, and he's learned to fear other desperate survivors. But when he meets the injured Andrew, Jamie is compelled to help. They head out into the world together and their friendship begins to feel like something more. They're basically looking for shelter, safety and community. And, ahead of them is a perilous journey through a world torn apart. So, we are very much looking at, a Fallout-esque, Gigarama, which I assumed there would be a little homosexuality thrown in there, which is essentially me every time I play Fallout 4, because I do romance McCready every time. The chapters in this book, they aren't actually numbered, which, I mean, I feel since it is post-apocalypse and the world has fallen apart, that was an intentional choice. Since it's I get this might be me reaching, but it's an intentional choice that the regular order in the book has fallen apart as well, something like that. But yeah, I'll just talk about the first handful of chapters, because they do flip between Jamie, or Jameson as the chapter headings do call him, and Andrew. Yeah, it flits through them between them pretty quickly in the beginning. So basically, Andrew gets his leg caught in a bear trap, and he's heading to a cabin that he thinks is abandoned, but what he doesn't know that obviously Jamie's in that cabin. Yeah, then we flip over to Jamie, where basically he can hear someone walking up to the cabin. And then it flips back to Andrew, where Jamie has now pulled a gun on him. And then obviously because Andrew is dying, he collapses on the floor, but Jamie doesn't shoot him. And then actually ends up, helping him and essentially saving his life. Because Jamie's mother used to work in a hospital, so Jamie's just a nice little guy, really. But yeah, because Jamie's mum used to work in a hospital, when things started going to shit, she started writing down loads of essentially medical stuff in this journal for Jamie. So, Jamie essentially figures out or guesses that, Andrew's fibula is broken, so let's give it up for the broken fibula. And then, because of that, he's basically, the gag of the season is that he's, taken out for 6 weeks or so. So it's oh no, he's going to have to stay in the cabin with Jamie. And then, Andrew mentions that, he's headed to, meet these people called the Fosters in a place called Alexandria. And, Homeboy's on a mission, but he also mentions that, the new EU is allegedly coming to, one of the airports. Oh, I don't remember which airport it's, I feel like it was one of the airports named after a president, but I could be making that up. But, they're gonna be headed to an airport to, I think it was, pick survivors up or something. at a certain date. I don't remember exactly what it was, because in between the time that I finished reading this book and like I'm recording this, I have started reading another book. Oops, lol. But yeah, as time goes by with the two of them in the cabin, like after Andrew's, been there for like a week, Jamie is doing a run to a hardware store and he admits to the reader that he kind of doesn't want Andrew to leave, because I feel like it was the gag of finally someone else is there to keep him company, pretty much. So now, like, in the very front, actually I could probably show it. Yeah, in like the front of the book, there's like a map of the entire east coast of the US, and it does point out like various points. Like it points out where Jamie's cabin is, and it's like basically just a bunch of places that get mentioned in the book. And like, because the blurb did mention that like they were going to be looking for shelter, I assumed that meant that they weren't just going to stay in the cabin for the entire book. And I mean, this isn't really a spoiler in saying that they don't stay in the cabin, because like I say, it literally says find shelter, find safety, and find each other. So obviously they're going to leave. But like the event that incites the two to leave, I'm not gonna say what it is exactly because that would be spoilers. But like obviously because it's post-apocalypse and it mentions that Jamie has learned to like fear other desperate survivors, I assumed there would be tension, maybe a bit of horror in there. But like when the event came to be, I won't lie, my body was a little bit clenched. Like I had to do it. But yeah, for no spoilers, but it did get me, gal. The very Ginger Minge-esque, they got me, gal.
They got me, gal!
So yeah, the two of them, they do keep travelling together, and like, what? This point is probably going to be a really dumb one to make. But even though, like, the apocalypse in this book was, like, somewhat recent for the characters, it still gave me very much a Fallout video game vibes. But it was definitely more Fallout 4 than Fallout New Vegas, because like things in New Vegas are like more scorched and dead, whereas like in Fallout 4 there is more like plant life. And I mean that might have something to do with Fallout 4 being set on the East Coast and Fallout New Vegas being in like California and Nevada, those sorts of states. And I mean the point I'm kind like trying to make is I just got that vibe while I was reading the book. Like, I will say, it felt like there was definitely a little bit of, like, video game logic applied to this book. But, honestly, it's set in an apocalypse, so I don't care. Like, this shit was wild. So, I wasn't mad. And I mean, after sitting on it for a while, like, I know, like, I think the point I was trying to make by saying it was, like, Fallout-esque, I think the point I was trying to make is there are obviously like loads of different, iterations of like post-apocalypse, but I think in literature I'm meaning, and like media, but I think my favourite that I've consumed is, Fallout, and that's part of like why I enjoyed the apocalypse in this book. And I mean, to, keep going on the Fallout train, something about this book that I appreciated, and again, this might be because of the way that I play the Fallout games, and it's that every time that Andrew and Jamie stopped, for some reason I thought that was gonna be it. Like, for some reason I thought, okay, they're gonna stop and, like, this is where they're gonna be, permanently. Despite the fact that, like, that little map that I showed you, it encompasses the entirety of the East Coast, like, all the way from New England down to, Key West in Florida. But, like, for some reason, my dumb clown brain, every time they stopped, I was like, yes, this is where they're gonna stop, like, forever. But, like, they kept travelling, and to be honest, if I was in the apocalypse, like, I would not be able to do, like, 99% of what these two 16-year-olds were doing. Honestly, I would personally just D-word. And I mean, like, there were times in this book as well where there were, like, time jumps or, like, time skips by, like, a few days, maybe even, like, weeks at a time. And I feel like normally I'd have an issue with this. But given that, like I said, to harp back on the post-apocalypse, mug, since we find out, like, just how deadly and, like, how high mortality rates were in, like, the super flu that essentially was the apocalypse in this book, like, it killed off the majority of the population, and there is, like, repeated mention of how, like, few people there are. And, like, the book does mention that, sometimes Andrew and Jamie won't see, like, other people for, like, days or weeks. So, like, to me it makes sense that there are these time skips, you know? Just because, like, I feel like if there weren't these time skips, the book would have ended up, like, unnecessarily longer, you know, than it needed to be. And I feel like there would just be, like, pages and pages of nothing. So I suppose this is a point about how I feel like this book had a good pace. in like so many words, in like too many words, I think that's the point I was trying to make. And I mean, I feel like I realise I haven't actually like talked about Andrew and Jamie. I feel like obviously because they were stuck with each other for so long, like the natural progression of things is that like they would slowly open up to each other. And you know, that is what happened, and like as the two opened up to each other, they also sort of opened up to the reader as well. Because like and I believe it was Andrew, he mentioned he was trying to, you know, meet this family, the Fosters in Alexandria. And we don't, we as the readers don't, you know, initially find out why. But, like, as the book goes on, eventually we do. And, like, we get the explanation, which was, again, something I appreciated. And, I mean, like, these last 2 points that I've got to make, they are very minor. It might even just be 1 point, to be honest. It's just, like, 2 other points that, like, didn't really fit anywhere else. So, like, the first one is my favourite line in the book that I'm just going to present to everyone without context. And, you know, that line is, penis bees be damned. Do with that information what you will. That was my favourite line in the book, and I'm not going to explain it. But, yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I believe it was in my, you know, video for I'm So Not Over You where I said that I hoped that book was going to be a start, like the start of like a string of highs. And I mean, obviously like the last couple books I've read, they were good, but they didn't like match the high. You know, I'm pleased to announce that All That's Left in the World did match that high. And to be honest, I can, you know, quite confidently say that this book, like, unless, you know, later in the year I read things that are just, like, wig obliterating, like, I can confidently say that as of now, you know, this is on my top books of 2022. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, where I mentioned in my video for Golden Boys and The Infinite Noise, where, like, my wig was shook, but, like, my wig didn't blow off. My wig, like, I've lost my wig after reading this. I need a new wig, basically. But yeah, that's it. You know, feel free to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you'd really like. And, you know, let me know in the comments, you know, have you ever heard of this book? Have you ever read it? And if you have read it, you know, let me know what you think. But yeah, that's it. Okay, bye.